It usually starts with a whisper, but this time it started with a hiring decision that screams louder than any headline. For months, the world has been watching Prince Harry and Meghan Markle looking for cracks in the facade. We've seen the awkward public appearances, the separate business ventures, and the physical distance growing between them. But while everyone was focused on their failed Spotify deals and the public ridicule, something much darker was happening behind closed doors in Montecito. A specific move was made in January that signals the end isn't just coming, it's already been planned. Meghan Markle has quietly rehired Sunshine Sachs. To the average person, that's just a PR firm. But in Hollywood, Sunshine Sachs is known for exactly one thing: aggressive, high-stakes divorce management. They are the fixers you call 90 days before you drop the bomb. But why now? And why does veteran royal biographer Tom Bower say that Harry is walking into a trap he doesn't even see coming? It turns out the answer has been hiding in a legal document signed years ago. A document with a specific clause on page 14 that changes absolutely everything about who owns the money, the house, and even the children. Harry thinks he's fighting the British press, but the real battle is happening in his own living room, and he's already lost. Before we open the legal files, you need to understand why these new revelations are sending shivers down the spines of the royal family. We aren't talking about internet theories from a basement blogger. We are talking about Tom Bower. In the world of investigative journalism, Bower is known as the Hunter. He is a former barrister and BBC journalist who has spent 4 decades dismantling the reputations of untouchable billionaires and tycoons. He didn't just write a book, he built a legal case. When Bower writes about Robert Maxwell or Simon Cowell, he doesn't use anonymous sources that vanish in the wind. He interviews the people who were in the room, the lawyers, the accountants, the fired assistants. For his investigation into the Sussex marriage, Bower conducted over 80 interviews with direct witnesses. He spoke to the palace staff who were bullied, the Hollywood agents who saw the contracts, and most importantly, the legal minds who understand the complex web of the Sussex finances. So when Tom Bower says there is a poison pill buried in the Sussex marriage contract, he isn't guessing. He is reporting on a document he has likely verified through the very people who drafted it, and what he found contradicts every romantic story we've been told about their union. It suggests that while Harry was playing the role of the protective husband, a legal cage was being built around him one bar at a time. Most people assume that because Harry is a prince, his assets are protected by the ironclad laws of the British monarchy. In the UK, royal prenups are designed to protect the crown. They ensure that ancestral estates, titles, and jewelry can never be claimed by an ex-spouse. But Harry and Meghan made a decision that nullified centuries of British legal protection. They moved to California. This is where the nightmare begins for the prince. California is a community property state. This means that, generally speaking, anything earned or acquired during the marriage is split 50-50. The Netflix deal, half hers. The book Advance for Spare, half hers. The Montecito mansion, half hers. But according to Bower's investigation, the prenup has a clause that overrides even this standard split and not in Harry's favor. The alleged clause on page 14 deals specifically with intellectual property and future revenue. It reportedly states that whoever is the primary manager of the business entity retains control of the brand assets in the event of a dissolution. And who is listed as the primary manager on almost every single Archwell document, who appears first on the trademarks, who is the face of the new lifestyle brand. It isn't Harry. This clause essentially argues that because Meghan is the business mind and the manager of their joint ventures, the future profits of those ventures belong primarily to her. It's a legal masterstroke. It means Harry isn't just risking half his fortune, he is risking the rights to his own story, his own brand, and his ability to generate income in the future. But how did Harry let this happen? The tragedy of this situation is that the trap wasn't set in 2018 when they married at Windsor Castle. At that time, Harry had the full weight of the palace legal team behind him. The real damage was done in 2020 during the chaos of Megxit. Think back to that time. Harry was emotional, angry at his family, and desperate to escape the UK. He was vulnerable. According to Bower's sources, this is exactly when the prenup was amended. Updates to prenups are common when couples move countries or have children, but this amendment was different. It was framed as a necessary step to set up their new independent life in America. Bauer reports that Harry signed these amendments without the meticulous scrutiny he should have applied. He trusted his wife. He believed they were a team fighting against the world. He didn't realize that by signing these papers, he was agreeing to a legal structure that categorized him as a talent and Meghan as the producer. In Hollywood legal terms, the talent is replaceable. The producer owns the show. This amendment reportedly redefined their joint ventures in a way that heavily favors the person doing the administrative work. Since Harry has admitted in his own book that he has little patience for paperwork or legal details, he effectively signed away control because he couldn't be bothered to read the fine print. He thought he was signing for freedom. He was signing a transfer of power. To really grasp the magnitude of this financial trap, we have to look at the biggest commercial success Harry has had, his memoir, Spare. On the surface, it looked like Harry's moment of truth, his chance to tell his story. But under the microscope of the prenup's intellectual property clause, Spare looks less like a memoir and more like a transfer of wealth. Think about the timing. The book was released after the reported 2020 amendment. It generated millions in advance payments and royalties. But who negotiated the deal? Who managed the publishing contract? Sources suggest the business structure set up by the Sussexes funneled these earnings into their shared entities where Meghan allegedly holds the managerial controlling interest. Tom Bauer's investigation implies a terrifying reality for Harry. He sold out his family, destroyed his reputation in the UK, and severed ties with his brother, all to generate cash that he might not legally own. He did the emotional heavy lifting. He took the public heat, but the intellectual property clause could define the book as a joint marital asset created under Meghan's business management. If they divorce, Harry is left with the fallout, the broken relationships, and the shame, while the profits from the book that caused it all could be split or worse, leveraged by Meghan as part of the settlement. Harry essentially capitalized on his past to fund a future that he won't be part of. He burned down the bridge back to the palace, and now he's finding out that the toll booth on the other side is owned by his wife. To understand where this is going, we have to look at where Meghan has been. This isn't her first time navigating the end of a marriage, and her history provides a blueprint for what is happening right now. When Meghan divorced her first husband, producer Trevor Engleson, it was described by friends as a bolt from the blue. Trevor allegedly didn't see it coming. Meghan had moved to Toronto for Suits, physically distancing herself from him. She began building a separate life, a separate circle of friends, and a separate income. When she finally pulled the trigger, it was swift, cold, and incredibly efficient. She even reportedly mailed her wedding ring back to him by registered post. Bauer's sources from that era describe Meghan as meticulous during the divorce negotiations. She didn't leave anything to chance. She ensured a clean break where she kept her earnings and her independence. Now look at the current landscape with Harry. We see the exact same pattern emerging. She is building a separate life. The launch of American Riviera Orchard, ARO, is a solo venture. The trademark is in her name. The new podcast deal with Lemonada Media, it's for her, not them. She is systematically uncoupling her financial identity from Harry's. She is creating a lifeboat that can float on its own when the SS Sussex finally sinks. The rehiring of Sunshine Sachs mirrors her behavior, with Trevor setting up the PR narrative before the legal filing ever hits the desk. Let's talk about the numbers, because they are terrifying for Harry. The headlines shouted about a $100 million Netflix deal and a $20 million Spotify deal. But industry insiders know those numbers were ceilings, not handouts. You only get the full amount if you produce hit after hit. They didn't. Spotify canceled the contract, calling them grifters. Netflix has reportedly downgraded their deal to a first-look arrangement because the content output was so low. So where is the money they did get? Tom Bauer estimates they received an initial payout of perhaps $40 million to cover production costs and fees. But that money has a burn rate. Between the security teams, the private jets, the PR retainers, and the mortgage on the Montecito estate, that cash is evaporating. But here is the catch. Bauer suggests that the remaining liquid assets have been moved into accounts and trusts that are structured for protection. If Harry has been funding their lifestyle from his inheritance money that is usually separate property, but he commingled it with their joint accounts to pay for the house. He may have accidentally converted his private royal inheritance into community property. If that happened, Meghan is entitled to half of his mother's money. The financial restructuring that has happened since 2022 seems designed to ensure that if a split happens, Harry walks away with the debts and Meghan walks away with the assets. While the lawyers are arguably sharpening their knives, the emotional reality of their marriage has reportedly hit rock bottom. We aren't just relying on whispers anymore. We are seeing the physical separation. Reports from Radar Online and other outlets have intensified, claiming that Harry maintains a permanent room at the San Vicente Bungalows, a private club in Los Angeles, and frequently stays at a hotel chain near their home just to get away from the tension. Inside the mansion, sources claim they are sleeping in separate bedrooms. This isn't just about a cooling romance. It's about two people on completely different wavelengths. Harry is reportedly lonely, missing his friends, and obsessed with his legal battles in the UK. He spends his days on Zoom calls with lawyers reliving the trauma of his past. Meanwhile, Meghan is focused on the future, her future. She is reportedly frustrated by Harry's obsession with the past. She wants to be a Hollywood power player, a billionaire brand mogul, and Harry's constant victimhood is bad for business. The failure of the With Love Meghan campaign and the backlash against her jam brand have reportedly put her under immense pressure. When Meghan feels pressure, she looks for a scapegoat. And right now, the person dragging down her brand is the moody prince in the guest room. But the separation isn't just happening in their bank accounts. It has systematically happened in Harry's social life. This is what experts in high-conflict divorces often call the isolation strategy. Look at who is left standing around Prince Harry today. Where are the old Etonians? Where are the friends he grew up with? Where are the ushers from his wedding? Tom Skippy Inskip, one of his oldest friends, was reportedly cut off the moment he questioned the speed of the relationship. His inner circle from the military has been largely ghosted. Even his communication with his family is non-existent. Harry is now living in a country where he has no history, no lifelong friends, and no support system other than the people on Meghan's payroll. This is a critical factor in why the divorce prediction for 2026 is so potent. In a custody battle or a high-stakes divorce, negotiation isolation is leverage. Harry has nowhere to go. If he leaves the house in Montecito, he goes to a hotel. He can't run home to Pa because he attacked his wife in a book. He can't crash with William because they aren't speaking. He is completely untethered. This makes him psychologically vulnerable. When you have no one to bounce ideas off of, no one to tell you, that doesn't sound right, you become entirely dependent on your partner's narrative. Bauer suggests that Harry's confusion and misery are the direct result of having his entire social ecosystem replaced by Hollywood agents and PR fixers who answer to Meghan. He isn't just a husband in a rocky marriage. He is a man on an island, and the tide is rising fast. But money and houses are just things. The true nuclear component of this divorce will be the children, Archie and Lilibet. This is where Harry faces his absolute worst nightmare. Under international law, habitual residence dictates custody jurisdiction. The children live in California. They go to school in California. Their doctors are in California. If they divorce, the case will be heard in a California court, not a British one. California courts heavily favor the primary caregiver. If Harry tries to return to the UK, which sources say he desperately wants to do, he cannot take the children without Meghan's permission. And she will never give it. Bauer's investigation suggests that Meghan holds all the cards here. She knows that Harry will never leave his children behind. By keeping the children in California, she anchors Harry to a place he hates, trapping him in a legal jurisdiction where he is at a disadvantage. If he wants to see his kids, he has to play by her rules. The prenup likely outlines custody arrangements, but judges always rule based on the best interest of the child at the time of divorce. And taking kids away from their mother to move them to a country they've barely known, no California judge will sign off on that. Harry is effectively a hostage to his own fatherhood. Finally, there is one asset that matters more to Meghan than the Montecito house, or the Netflix residuals, the title. You might think, if they divorce, she loses the title, right? Wrong. This is where the intricacies of British peerage law collide with Meghan's branding ambitions. When Sarah Ferguson divorced Prince Andrew, she remained Sarah, Duchess of York. When Diana divorced Charles, she remained Diana, Princess of Wales, though she lost the HRH, Her Royal Highness style. Meghan knows this precedent inside out. Sources indicate that keeping the Duchess of Sussex title is a non-negotiable red line for her. Why? Because Meghan Markle is a retired actress from a basic cable legal drama. The Duchess of Sussex is a global brand that commands six-figure speaking fees. However, Tom Bower reveals that the palace might have a nuclear option of their own. There are whispers in Parliament and deep within the palace corridors about a potential removal of the titles entirely if the divorce becomes too weaponized. If Harry is stripped of his dukedom, Meghan becomes Princess Henry. It's a quirk of royal styling she takes his first name. Can you imagine the branding nightmare for a feminist icon to be professionally known as Princess Henry? It destroys the independent narrative she has spent years building. This fear of losing the Duchess label is likely what is keeping the negotiations so tense and why the prenup clauses are being scrutinized so heavily. She needs to walk away with the money and the name. Harry, on the other hand, was born a prince. He will be Prince Harry no matter what happens. He doesn't need a brand. He has a bloodline. She needs the title to survive in the elite circles she has clawed her way into, and she will fight harder for those 3 words, Duchess of Sussex, than anything else. So when does the hammer drop? Tom Bower has pointed to a specific timeline. The rehiring of Sunshine Sachs in January suggests a 6 to 12-month rollout plan. In the world of celebrity divorce, you don't hire the crisis team the day you file. You hire them to spend a year planning stories about growing apart, different paths, and mental health struggles. The prediction is that by early 2026, the narrative will be fully established. The story will be that Meghan tried everything to save the depressed, troubled prince, but eventually had to choose her own happiness and the well-being of her children. It will be framed as a brave escape, just like her exit from the royal family. Harry, meanwhile, seems to be sleepwalking toward the cliff edge. He is still fighting battles from 20 years ago, unaware that the war for his future has already been decided on page 14 of a document he signed in 2020. He burned his bridges with his brother. He alienated his father. He isolated himself from his friends. And when the papers are finally served, he may find that the only person waiting for him on the other side is the one person he can't afford to trust. The fairy tale is officially over. The legal thriller has begun. And if Tom Bower is right, the ending is going to be more shocking than anyone could have imagined. What do you think? Is Harry really this blind to what's happening, or is he planning a counter move we don't know about yet? Let me know in the comments below and make sure you're subscribed, because when this news officially breaks, you're gonna want to be here for the full story.